through all the important features in VideoScribe and set up our canvas. So when you first open up VideoScribe, you'll be taken to this screen here. It's a really nice place to scroll through your past and present projects. And of course, if you've never used the software before, you'll have nothing here. But as you can see, I use it a lot. I pretty much use it for all my videos, and it's really nice to be able to dip in and dip out whenever I want. But anyway, for the purpose of this class, we're going to hit this button up here to create a new scribe because we want to build an animation from scratch. So once you've clicked that button, you'll be taken through to your project screen. This is effectively your canvas. It's where the magic happens and you'll put all your animation and text. Before anything, let's just quickly hit save and give it a name. So I'm going to call this one Skillshare Project. Okay, so next up, let's pick our background. So as I said, this is where all the animations will be placed, and it's important to get the right kind of background to suit your video. So if you click this button up here, you have a few different options. Now, if you've seen my own videos, you'll know I like to use white. I think it gives a kind of whiteboard feel, and it's very good for teaching videos because everything is so clear and easy to read. However, some of the other options here are really cool as well, and I think for this video, I'm going to go with this one. It kind of looks like paper. Also, you can just click this one and pick any color you want, but for now, let's just hit click. And there you go. As you can see, it's kind of a nice texture to it. It feels almost like a piece of paper, and it's going to be a really cool base for our animations. So next up, hit this button up here. Now, if you don't know VideoScribe, it's actually a software that uses hand motions to mimic the drawing of animations. So you'll see what I mean by clicking this. So the hand will actually trace through the text or animation you're making. Now, I really like this feature. It's really cool, but personally, I usually use no hand. So that looks like this. It just kind of appears magically and draws itself in. I personally think this just looks a little bit more professional and clean, but either way is cool. For this video, I'm just going to select this option. But if you want, you can browse through a number of different options here, and you can even use whatever these are. A zipper. I don't know why anyone would use that, but you can if you want to, and it's there as an option. So as I said, I'm just going to use no hand because I think it looks the cleanest, and it's what I use for most of my animations on my channel. Okay, so we've set the background, saved the project, and selected the animation style. But next up, let's actually talk about the animation and text itself. So in VideoScribe, the beautiful thing about it is if you click this button here, you have a catalog of different animations to pick from. So right here, you'll see some of the ones I've used recently. You can see some of the ones I've used in my last few videos. But on here on the left, you have a huge menu of categories to pick from. So if I was to click celebration, for example, and there we go, there's a shamrock up there for St. Paddy's Day. That's my name, so we're going to use that, and I can drag that in. And if we click it again, I can just talk through some other things. So yeah, you have a huge range of different images to pick from, and these are all provided by VideoScribe as a part of their package. So you don't have to pay for these, you don't have to do any work, they're just there. It's a beautiful thing. You can also search for certain terms. So if I was to search for crowd, for example, there we go. I use a lot of these in my videos. So for example, this one here is a picture of a crowd. And there you go. That's how you pick the animations. Now, of course, I'm going to show how you make them appear, disappear, color in, all that good stuff in the next few classes. But for now, I just want to show you how you select them. And of course, as well, you have this button here, which is add new text. So you click that and then you get a little text box to add text that will automatically add to your canvas. Now, I found using the basic font that VideoScribe provide, it's a bit weird. You have to do double spaces for it to look good. I'll just show you what I mean. I am Irish, for example, with no double spaces. It just looks a bit crowded. Very crowded, actually, now that I think about it. It just looks a bit weird. So what I will do here is delete that and type it again with double spaces. It's these little tricks that sometimes, make all the difference to a software, because you're trying to be a perfectionist here and you want everything to look nice and clean. So that's what it looks like with double spaces. It looks much cleaner. And as you can see there, I've added 2 animations and I've added text as quickly as that, very easily. And it makes it look like I've done some insane amount of work here to make these, but they're already there and provided for you. And that is the great thing about VideoScribe. So as you've seen me do there, it's really easy to resize images and text. You just click on it and use these buttons here to make it smaller or larger. You can also click and drag to move it anywhere around the canvas. And if you click outside the canvas and just drag like this, you can move your whole canvas around to set up new frames. So say if you wanted everything to display here and then you wanted to move on to your next scene, here you go, and then you can do that. You can also zoom in and zoom out using these buttons here, the zoom in and zoom out button. So say for example, if you wanted to take a really surface level look at all your animations, you could zoom out and look around. Or even if you wanted to have certain animations at a different zoom level, so if you wanted these to be at 100% and then your next animation over here to be zoomed out a bit more, you can do that. And then you can see here you have your timeline. This is where all your elements are displayed in chronological order. It's really easy to reposition them by just dragging them and dropping them across the timeline. You can also really quickly delete them by pressing this button here. So this is how to set up your VideoScribe canvas and a quick walkthrough of most of the main features. Now let's get into the actual animation. Right, so now we have our project canvas all set up. Let me show you how we can add images and animate them from the VideoScribe library. Okay, so now let's get into the actual animation of the images. Click on your Add New Image button again. I'm going to add in my shamrock, and first of all you can of course see you can resize it as I showed you before using these side buttons here. You can click and drag it around anywhere on the screen, and if you double click you're opened with the Image Properties window. Now on this window you have four main tabs. You've got the Select Image tab, which you can use to change the image really quickly. You've got the Graphic Filters, which you can use to change the appearance of the image. You have the Drawing Options, which is the important part. This is how we're actually going to animate the image. And we have the Drawing Hand, as we've discussed before above. You can change this to whatever you want. So going back to the Drawing Options tab, I want us first to look at the three different ways we can animate our images. This is Draw, Move In, and Fade. So Draw looks like this. Pretty cool. Move In looks like this. And Fade In looks like this. So these are the three main styles of animation in VideoScribe. I'm going to quickly change this back to Draw because it's my favorite one. So underneath this you can see you can also change the image color. I'm going to leave that as it is because green for Shamrock, I don't want to mess around with that. You have an opacity slider here so you can make it really see-through if you want. And you have another rotation feature here. So if you want to rotate the image you can do that using that. But what I really want to focus on for now is the animate, pause, and transition timers. So every animation you make in VideoScribe is timed over three main areas. The animate, which is the actual drawing or moving in or fading in of the image. So that's this part. So that takes 3 seconds. Then you have the pause, which is the amount of time after the animation takes place that the image stays in the one place. So 0.5 seconds. So if I change that to 2 seconds, it'll stay for 2 seconds. You see what I mean? So this is really useful for trying to time a bunch of animations in a row using your timeline. So if you were talking in your video about shamrocks and then you moved on to crowd after 3 seconds or something, you could time this so that the pause feature made sure that the minute you stopped talking about shamrocks, it would move on to the next animation. We're going to do this a lot more in our class later on about piecing everything together, but it's really important to understand what they are all used for. And then the transition is the amount of time it takes to move from one animation to the other. And I'll go through how this all looks in live action in just a minute. So if we just mess around with our timing here and decide on the right one, so say 2.5 for the animation, 1 for the pause and 1 for the transition, it looks like this. Okay, and then we hit tick to save those settings. So now we've got those settings saved, so this animation will take that amount of time to come up, pause, and move on to the next one. So let's move this around so it's in a certain part of the screen. So say if we want to put something to the right, we should move this into the left. As you keep it in this position, we make sure we've selected the clip and we hit this button here to set the camera position. So now if we press preview, we will see that it stays at this side of the screen and animates over here, giving us space here to do our next animation. There you go. So that's really cool. So we can put in another animation over here. So if we were to use the crowd animation, I'll resize this up, place that there, and then also have this selected and hit camera position so it appears up here too. Then double click. Let's use move in for this one. Move in from the right. Let's do a smooth move in effect and let's make it 2 seconds, because in general when I'm doing move in animations I like to keep it around 2 seconds so it's nice and snappy like that. And then we'll do a 2 second pause this time and a 1 second transition. Press OK. So now let's see what this all looks like put together. So our shamrock comes in on the left, animates, pauses for 0.5 seconds, and then boom, our next one comes in, pauses for 2 seconds, and there we go. So that's the really basic explanation of how animations work in VideoScribe. Now there's other features as well that I'm going to discuss really quickly. So say for example, if you want to zoom into something, you have these arrow keys here, which is the zoom buttons. And as you can see at the moment, it's set on 100%, which means it's just as it is now. But if we were to put in another animation, say for example, let's just say these trees for whatever reason. Those are some weird looking trees. Some of the animations in VideoScribe are a little weird, but most of them are really good. So if we were to put this and make this actually quite small and then zoom in. So if we wanted to zoom in, so that's 214%, then we could make sure we selected it and set the camera position. So now if we go and press our preview, wait, hold on, I'll just make this I'll say draw 2 seconds, 1 second pause, 1 second transition. So if I was to play that now, you'll see it's zoomed in from the rest of the animations. So if I play from the start, this is all on 100%, transition, boom, and then transition, boom. Okay. So this is really the basic way to start setting up your animations. Now obviously a lot of it comes down to trial and error and trying a few different things yourself. I like to keep things quite fast paced, so in general I keep my animations pretty quick and my transitions pretty quick as well. 1 second, 0.5 seconds, around that kind of area is the best for me, I think. And I also like to not put too much on the one screen at the one time, so I do a lot of moving around. So say for example, I'll just show you really quickly. So if we have this all in the same frame, so let's say if we select all these clips by pressing Shift, select, and then hitting set camera position. So all these clips are now going to be in the same frame with the same camera position, but then we want to put another clip down here, or another image down here, of a graph. Let's just say we want to put a graph in the middle there. We want to keep it in the middle, so we make sure we've selected it and press set camera position. So now it's in this frame, it's on 100%, and then we'll do a fade in for this one. So we'll set the fade in to 1 second, because with fade ins you want to keep them quite snappy so it doesn't take too long. And we'll put a 1.5 second pause. So now if we play this from the start, you'll see what I mean. So the shamrock, the crowd, the weird trees, and now it's going to move down using the transition feature, boom. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone watching. I think it's quite easy when you get into it. And it also, as I said before, the great thing about this software is it makes you feel like you're doing a lot more work than you are, whereas really it is the software that's doing all the heavy lifting for you. But it's all about playing around with it, trying to find what style works best for you. In general, I like to keep maybe 2 or 3 images per screen and have a title or some form of text or arrows or some sort of other feature, which I'll explain in the next class. And then I like to do a lot of movement, so bouncing around, so it goes left, right, and you just drag around to move around your screen like this. And you can mess around with the zooming, so if you wanted to zoom out of something, so if you were really close in, you want to zoom way out and do like something bigger here or some text here or something like that, you can do that. There's so many different ways of doing it. And the great thing about VideoScribe is it really comes down to your own personal style. So you can really you don't have to follow exactly how I do my animations. You can do it a completely different way and it still looks great. Okay, so now we've learned how to add images, let's look at text. Having a nice ratio of images to text is a recipe for success when it comes to animations. So the good news is that animating text is pretty much the exact same process as animating images. So if we click on the Add New Text button here, and we come up with this Add Text window. So here you can select your different fonts, you can add new fonts using the Manage Fonts button, you can left align, center align, and right align, and you can of course pick your font color. So I'm just going to go with black, I'm going to go center align, and I'm going to use the basic font. So let me type in the space race. Now you see I've used the double spacing again in here between words, but because this is a title, I usually like to go with 3. I know it's a little bit of an annoyance, but it makes all the difference. Okay, so let's resize this up. Let's put it in the middle of the screen. Let's make sure we have it selected, and then we're going to hit set camera position. I've actually just seen it's a bit further to the right, so I'm going to just by eye move it in a little bit there. Set camera position. Okay, let's preview this and see what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see there, it's a pretty cool revealing effect where the text animates in letter by letter. Alright, so if we double click on the text, we bring up the text properties window. Now this is exactly the same as the image properties window, so I won't talk through it all again, but you have your 3 styles of animation, you have your preview box, you have your timers and everything there. So for this text, because it's quite short, I'm going to keep the animation at 2 seconds, the pause at 1 second and the transition at 1 second. I think that's a pretty nice sweet point. So to preview that, it looks like this, as we showed before. Now I want to show you something that I use a lot with my titles. So I like to have my titles take up a lot of space in the middle of the screen before giving away and moving up to the top and giving room for actual image animations. So to do this is really simple. So we've already set the camera position here, it's at 100%. So let's zoom out to, let's just say 68%. Let's drag this text up and move. We're not dragging the text, we're moving the screen up. So you can see here, we're not actually selecting the text, this is moving the screen. So now the screen is a different place, the camera position is in a different place, and the text is actually in the same place, it's just been zoomed out and moved across. So if we add images in here, so say for example we want this rocket ship to resemble a space race, and we want to add another image in. So to add an image from your actual computer, you just hit import here, and I've just got this nice picture of Elon Musk to put in. So this might take a bit longer than the other one. There we go. So I'm going to add that in. When you're adding your own images, they don't animate exactly the same, but they still look cool. So I'll just show you what it looks like. Say 2 seconds. So it's more of a reveal effect. Still looks cool in my opinion. So we've added both those in. What we're going to do is select these two and not the text, and then shift select to make sure we're selecting both of them, and then set camera position. So now what's going to happen when we press play is that this space race is going to come in the original position we had it in with the camera position, and then it's going to transition and make way for these two images. It's a really cool effect that I use for a lot of my videos. So let me show you what it looks like. So that comes in, zooms out, and then our images come in. It's very simple, but it gives your animations a bit of motion and it makes sure they're not too stagnant. So that's how you add text. It's so simple, and I just want to quickly show you before we leave. So by the way, if you double click on any image, that will take you to the camera position it's already in. So if you want to quickly check what camera position this is in, you just double click it, double click space race, that brings you back here. That's a nice little shortcut to have. So what I want to show you really quickly here is if you did want to change the hand for this one to a drawing hand. So for example, if we've just changed the drawing hand for this, this will look like this. So it will actually draw in with the hand, which is quite cool. And then these will go back to just drawing in automatically without a hand. So that's how you animate text in VideoScribe. It's really simple and you can make it look really clean and professional. As I've already said, it's all about your personal style and your personal preference. So please mess around with how you animate text, how it appears, what colors you're using, what fonts you're using, and see what suits your own style.